Okay, so Aniti Bati, the main characteristic of rich people and millionaires is that they all read. Okay, so Namige, I started reading. This is the book I picked up, and let's get into the life lessons that I learned from this book. Hi there. I hope you're doing amazing. Happy Friday. Um so today we're going to be talking about this book, The Power of Habit. This is not a book review, ne, because I just started reading Izolo Logo. So I'm in no position to be doing book reviews and saying if a book is good enough or is not good enough. I don't think I'm the right person to say that, but I'm just going to talk about points that stood out for me in this book and that I'm going to take away from them. And then, so I bought this book last year in September. Was it September? August, September of 2022. It took me 8 months to finish this book, this smallanyana book. 8 months to finish it. So you can tell that I'm really not an avid reader and I'm just pushing this reading thing. I'm trying, you know what I mean? I'm trying to make it a habit to read consistently and read more books. Yabo. So I did finish this book, and my honest opinion of it, it's not a book review, but it was interesting in the beginning, and then like halfway through the book it started boring me. I For someone who's not an avid reader, I think you would definitely get bored of this book. It doesn't grab your attention. You don't stay hooked. So that's why it took me so long to finish it, because nje igcine yangibora. Anyway, let's get into the life lessons, yabo. So firstly, I don't know ganjani, but when I started reading the book, when I was still excited about the book, so the first few chapters, by some odd reason, my morning routine changed. Like, I started implementing morning exercises. I don't know ganjani, but it just happened. Like, I was the whole September, I think September, October, I think also November. I remember it was 3 months. I was very consistent with my morning exercises. So in the morning, for like 10 minutes, I'd do a morning exercise before I went to work every single day. No, not every single day. I think about 3 times a week. And then I got to like the midpoint of this book, and then Yatsina Young Bora, and then I just stopped reading it. Somehow I also just stopped. I don't know at what point, but I also just stopped doing my morning exercises. I don't know. Does it have to do with this book? I don't know. But anyway, rule number one, or lesson number one rather, is that habits run our lives. Whether we like it or not, habits do run our lives. Whatever we do, from the smallest decisions that we make, from waking up exeni and deciding to do a morning routine, and that's a habit. Whether I wake up in the morning and decide to bath first or to have breakfast first, whatever those small decisions that you end up making that become a part of your routine, those are habits and they do run our lives. Lesson number two is that habits can be ignored, changed, or replaced. There's a section in the book that says, when a habit emerges, the brain stops fully participating in decision making. It stops working so hard. So, unless you deliberately fight a habit, unless you find new routines, the pattern will unfold automatically. So, they can be changed, they can be replaced, but unless you actually fight it, the habit is just going to be an automatic response of the brain. Yeah, well, the third one, which is the habit loop. This is basically the principle of this entire book. The habit loop simply says that habits are broken down into components, which is the cue, the routine, and the reward. So the cue is the trigger, right? He makes an example of a person who he makes an example of a person who smokes. When they see a pack of cigarettes, which is the trigger, the brain starts anticipating a hit of nicotine. So that hit of nicotine is then the reward that the brain craves. Yeah, well, so the cue, which is the trigger, is when you see the nicotine. Or he also mentioned when you see a box of donuts sitting on the counter, the cue, the trigger is the donuts, and then your brain craves the reward, which is the sugar, and then you then start eating, and then before you know it, you've eaten like 6 donuts. Yeah, so that's how the principle works. And then he says, the author says, understanding how habits work, learning the structure of the habit loop makes them easier to control. Once you break a habit into its components, you can fiddle with the gears, right? And then it says, so this goes to the fourth lesson. Our brains can't tell the difference between good and bad habits. And then it says, Lana, it makes reference in the book about addiction. That's why there's so much addiction in the world, which is, he mentioned alcohol addiction, smoking, there was another one, gambling. He mentioned gambling as well. That's why there's so much addiction, is because the brain can't tell if this is a good or a bad habit. So that's how people just end up spiraling into addiction. The passage says, once we develop a routine of sitting on the couch rather than running or snacking every time we pass a box of donuts, which is the cue, the trigger, that pattern of routine and reward always remains inside our brain. So every time you will see the box of donuts or the box of cigarettes, you can't resist it, because your brain has already formed that craving, that reward, and then it's gonna be a habit. The next lesson says, in order to change habits, old ones must be replaced with new ones. I think this one is something that is quite obvious, for me at least, because I'm thinking, if you are a person who is a smoker, I'm sorry to smokers, sorry guys, but if you are a person who is a smoker and you're trying to kick the addiction, I don't think you can just kick the addiction and just go on with your life. Because now my thinking is, if you're gonna kick the addiction, you need something to replace the addiction with, right? So he also mentioned that it was found, or it was seen with smokers, that once they kicked the addiction, they always replaced it with something else, which some it may be good, some it may be bad, because some of them start now being addicted to gym and exercising, but others then fall into the whole food addiction and other types of addictions just to replace this addiction or this habit, right? A study was done on a group of people who exercised at least 3 times a week. 92% of them said they started exercising because it made them feel good. They grew to expect and crave the endorphins, which are the feel-good hormones. 67% of them said it gave them a sense of triumph and accomplishment that they had come to create. So the craving of the endorphins and the accomplishment, the sense of accomplishment, is the reward that keeps people like exercising, going back to the gym. Unfortunately for some of us, it hasn't kicked in yet, this craving of accomplishment. That reward hasn't kicked in, because here we are. I was on the right track with my exercising, and then it just stopped out of nowhere. Another lesson, I think that's number 6 now. Habits are very powerful. Right? There's also a story in a passage in the book of a housewife who was bored at home one day. She was bored at home. The kids and the husband went to work and to school, so she was bored, and then decided to go to the local gambling, the casino. There you go, local casino. When she got there, she said initially she wanted to go meet other people, like to go mingle with people, make new friends, because she didn't have any friends. And then she did that, and then gancane she got into gambling, but it started off small, where she just gambled with a few dollars, and she would win, and then she went back, and then she would win, and then she'd win back with a little more, and she would win, until it all became a habit, and then she spiraled down. At the end of the passage, her parents passed away. When the parents passed away, she got an inheritance. She blew the inheritance and gambled it all away. I think it was like $1 million or something like that, but it was just like a big number. And then it also mentions how she also, after the inheritance, she was in debt. She was now owing the gambling people, because the gambling people used to give her rewards, because now she was a loyal member, and then she ended up owing them a lot of money, and she had to gamble her house away. And only later, at the end, the husband then found out that she was addicted to gambling and gambled the whole entire inheritance, the money, the house. Hey, yeah. And then, where were we? Small changes in our routine can form powerful habits that can change our lives in the long run. Wait, what? Small habits in our routine can form powerful changes that can change our lives in the long run. So it makes, back to the example of he makes an example of when you come back home from work, from school, that small decision you take to either sit on the couch and watch TV, or sit on your bed and scroll social media, which is what I do all the time. If you were to replace that small decision with going for a jog or going for a walk whenever you come back from work, in the long run, that is going to form part of your routine, and it's gonna work out in your favor in the long run. So yeah, I still haven't gotten myself, I haven't, gotten myself to doing that. But anyway, another one is, this one I'm actively working on, deciding to read for at least 10 minutes first thing in the morning, instead of grabbing your phone and scrolling on social media. This one, I'm still fighting, because first thing in the morning, as soon as the alarm goes, I grab for my phone and I goes through social media, Instagram, YouTube, always. But every other day, I'm now trying to make it a habit to at least read at least 4 pages in the morning. At least 4 pages in the morning. I'm only giving myself 4 pages to read, because I'm trying to accomplish small habits. We're aiming for small, so that the small can lead to big changes. We're not here to build Rome in one day. Anyway, those are all my life lessons that I made note of. Of course, there are more lessons in this. This is a whole entire book. There are more lessons, but these are the ones that I think stood out for me, and these are the ones that I made note of. And so, yeah. In terms of reading, I'm now on my other book, my second book for the year. I'm not reading every day, honestly, I won't lie. I'm trying to make it an active habit and a part of my routine to read consistently. But hey, I'm failing. And yeah, but we'll see. But yeah, so it's a great book nonetheless. It's a great book. I got it on takealot.com, but I think also Bargain Books also has these kind of books. So yeah, thank you very much for watching until the end, until now. Tell me, are you reading? Have you started reading? Is it a habit that you are going to pick up? And yeah, what's your relationship with reading? Please tell me, because I'm also we're not on good terms with reading, but I'm really just trying my best. Anyway, thank you for tuning in, and please comment, like, and do all the great stuff. I'll see you in the next video.